Some people have a hard time understanding that. The vacation period that's coming right now is a time for meeting with family members, youngsters meeting with grandparents. Isn't there a risk during the holiday period, allowing the holidays and asking people to go to the holidays? The tourism minister asked people to go on vacation, and it's a risk. Some people will come from various regions and go from the regions to the big cities.
We know that when people are in open spaces, out in the fresh air, we know that when people are in places where you can go out, it's easier to fight against the virus. So to ask people to stay home in an apartment and not to go on holiday somewhere, that would be a disproportionate reaction.
So some people will be leaving the cities.
Yes, look, it's kind of what we saw at the beginning of the lockdown. But did the virus spread throughout the country? No. But what we're saying very clearly, what I'm saying today to my fellow citizens, is that if you go to a rented apartment or to your summer home, you have to respect the rules just like they would at home. You still have to take the same precautions. And above all, if you want to meet up with your family members, and this is just common sense, I'm sharing these rules with all of you. We are not going to regulate their lives. We're not going to stop them from going on holiday. That would be treating them like children. So I'm saying you can go on holiday because there would be a disproportionate reaction to stop you from doing that. But if you're visiting your family, if you're going to visit your grandparents, if you're visiting members of your family who are fragile, it is imperative to respect the rules. So that means that even within your family, you need to wear your mask if you haven't been tested. Because if you wear a mask, you're protecting others. So you should wear a mask if you're less than a meter away from someone. You have to keep your distance from others. And having a walk outside is a good idea. But self-isolating or having gestures that are not limited is not adapted to the situation.
Where you require mask wearing everywhere, even where there's little virus circulating?
So if you take a step back, I've just said what we are going to do, providing the Parliament votes for this in the 6 weeks to come. In the areas where the virus is spreading the fastest, a curfew with an economic assistance that will be exceptional and support, and we will keep working, and it's really important, we will keep working in all these cities and regions. Associations will keep working to look after the most precarious people in society. Public services will continue working. In the rest of the country, what do we have to do? What we have to do is we need to remobilize collectively. I know that a lot of effort has been made by our fellow citizens, but I must state the rules that will be applied everywhere. These are simple gestures that have to be kept within the family and everywhere in France. Keep your distance, more than a meter between people. Of course, with the person you're living with every day of the week, of course, there is an undeniable proximity that you can't change. But if you're with other members of your family, your friends, keep this distance. Wash your hands regularly with hand sanitizer or soap. Wear a mask as much as possible. There are places where this is enforced by law. There are rules that are imposed in certain areas, and we're not going to change them. And when you're indoors and you can't respect these rules, even in private meetings, you should wear a mask as much as possible. This is a form of self-discipline, of a reflex that you need to adopt. It's a recommendation I'm sharing with you. But if you want to reduce the risk of infecting others, you should take these precautions, even with your friends and family. And for everyone in France, you need to air things out regularly. 10 minutes 3 times a day. You should air rooms out. There are protocols in schools and in other establishments that have been set up. And we need to also respect the rule of 6 in restaurants. And again, I'd like to thank our restaurant industry. No more than 6 people at one table. And so as much as possible in our personal life, we have to do the same thing. If there's 7 or 8, 9, 10 people in our family, of course, we'll have to keep having a normal family life. You have to be guided by common sense. But if you're inviting friends, there shouldn't be more than 6 people on a table. It's a rule of 6. It's a common sense rule that you need to apply to yourself, because it's something that protects us, and it will help us to slow down the virus in the whole of France. So you can see everywhere in the country, these rules, and I'm agreeing to what you said, these are not rules that we're going to enshrine in decrees and protocols. I'd like every citizen to take ownership of these rules, to fully take ownership of them.
Including young people. I mentioned young people. We get the impression the curfew is really targeting younger people who go out, who party.
Yes, it's tough. It's tough to be 20 years old in 2020. It is tough. So I'm not going to preach to our youth, because it is they who are actually going through a terrible sacrifice. Exams that have been cancelled, difficult to find training, difficult to find a first job. That's why we have mobilized our efforts so much to create new training programs, to reopen positions, to create positions in schools and post-baccalaureate training. We have developed apprenticeships massively to help, and by helping companies so that they can provide apprenticeships. And so we've financed companies much more so that youth can find jobs and apprenticeships. And we'll do this for young people. But it's normal. When you're young, you have friends, you do party. So I don't want to make people feel guilty. But for the next weeks and months, I'm not asking people to have fewer friends, but you'll have to make more of an effort to meet smaller groups of people at the same time, and to also try to follow these rules, to protect each other. And I know that this is a huge effort, but the bet that we're taking now, and I'm sharing all the information I have with you, there is this constraint. There are these areas, these cities in France where the spread is so fast that we have to impose this curfew, which will be difficult for entire economic sectors, and it is a huge constraint. For the rest of the country, the more each and every one of us can take ownership of these rules, the more we can succeed. And I'd also like to ask our mayors and our local officials to propose plans to us, because they work with the people on the ground, they have citizens' councils, they've created their own structures and mechanisms. We need to work together with our citizens and with our elected officials. Mayors have to be actors of prevention. They're the ones who know the best how to work with associations and with citizens in order to carry our messages and to protect us better. So that's what we're doing throughout France, and we're limiting big meetings and pursuing the rules we've had since the beginning.